Hello, lover of all things wedding related, and welcome to the Wedding Wisdom Podcast with your hosts, Tanya Hoops and Morgan Powell.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wedding Wisdom. I am Morgan Powell, and this is my amazing co-host.
Hi, Tanya.
And we are so excited to chat a little bit more today. In our last episode, hopefully you guys are binging them, but in our last episode, we talked a little bit about our goals and the types of content that we're hoping to share with you guys and why a wedding is a luxury at every price point. With that, we thought we would dive a little bit deeper into our three main pillars of things that you can expect to hear from us. So Tanya, do you want to get started with our first?
Yeah, let's start by talking about venues because venues are so important. Usually people will either book their venue or their planner first. And the reason for that is because you want the date that you want to find the venue you want and the area that you want, because some people want a beach wedding, some people want a mountain wedding, some people, want a wedding in their backyard. So some people want to go to Africa on a wedding, which we have actually done. Morgan and I have done two weddings actually in Africa together. So you can do weddings anywhere in the world, anywhere you can imagine you can do a wedding. So we will talk about all different types of venues from remote venues to very local venues to very well-known venues. And the reason for that is so that you understand what different venues look like, what you can do at different venues, the fill. Different venues have different fills that go with them. And also, of course, the price points, because you're seeing a lot of weddings in Italy right now. And some of those wedding venues are very, very, very expensive, but there are ways to do weddings in Italy that aren't. And so we'll give you some of that insight when it comes to venues.
I love that. I think the other thing with venues too is some of these really beautiful, popular venues right now. You mentioned Italy has a whole bunch of them, have very strict guest count limits.
Yes.
And being able to understand that and talk through it so that you don't have your heart just set on this amazing venue that and you have 250 guests and you can only have 50 people at the venue.
Yep.
That would it causes more consternation than it needs to.
Yes, it absolutely does. Especially when you maybe don't want to get the guest list. You don't want to cut it down. You want all those guests there. Then you need to think through all of those pieces. Venues have so many pieces you need to think through. And prices really change on venues. And there's no real apples to apple comparison a lot because one venue includes tables and chairs. Another one doesn't. Maybe it's table and chairs you don't like. And so then you have to consider that. So there's so many different things that go into looking at venues.
Which is a plug for hiring your planner first
That's
and
right.
your venue second, because your planner will help you with all of those logistics. They talk to you with your to get your vision, and then they'll help you find those venues that will carry out your vision. And sometimes have those hard conversations of, this might be a guest list issue and we have to adjust the guest count or, any number of things. So that is a plug for hiring your planner first.
Yeah.
Which is a great lead into our second pillar, which is wedding vendors. So we are going to be interviewing different wedding vendors and having them on the show, hearing a little bit about what they do, what their area of expertise is, and any of their tips and tricks for you guys as you're planning your weddings. We'll have every vendor category represented.
Yep.
So if you hang out long enough, you'll hear from multiples of the same vendor categories. But everybody on a wedding day, I think one of the things that's so crazy about a wedding day is you bring all of these people together for one specific event, and they all have their own businesses and they all are running things their own way. And yet it's really quite magical to watch what they all accomplish together.
Yep.
And so getting to hear from wedding vendors is something that we think is really important.
Yeah, and you might find a wedding vendor that you really like because wedding vendors have different personalities. We as human beings have different personalities, and those plays into how I plan a wedding. I'm not the same as other planners that I know and work with and love and adore, but we definitely all have our different personalities. So clients fit with us, a little bit better. The other thing is, unfortunately, there are nightmare stories out there about vendors, and they're true. There are vendors that, don't fulfill their obligations or don't do exactly what you think they're going to, or maybe the contract, you're not understanding the contract explicitly. And so that's why we want to interview vendors so you can learn about them, find some of them, and also be able to understand like what you're signing. Like, what are you signing when you're getting the contract? Because I'm sure, you have clauses in your photography contracts that, because I know you do,
Yes.
that have certain clauses in there, and some are to protect you, some are to protect the clients, and they need to understand those when they're signing, not just sign and not know what's in that contract.
Right. A wedding day is not the time to lie that you read the fine print.
Yeah, or to not have understood what was in the contract. And so as a planner, we actually go through and we look at those contracts and we point out anything that we think that the client really needs to understand. Maybe it's like, hey, if you don't book extra hours, with the photographer ahead of time, it's actually double the price for the hours, because now I'm having to, kind of rearrange my thought process and rearrange my day because, part of doing a wedding, because there's such long days, there's a mental piece that shifts into place where you're like, I'm going to be on site for 15 hours today, and this is my time frame. And, we know that usually goes a little bit early and a little bit later, but not 5 hours earlier and later. And so that's an important thing mentally for us to switch in and out of. So yeah,
Yes.
Vendors are really important part. And then of course, the last part, which I think is really, really critical, is just advice from real stories that we have encountered. We know people that have encountered. I've done well over 500 weddings, my team has. And so knowing that, like, can you imagine all the things that we've done, we've been through, locations we've been to? So everything from, I had a bride who was walking down the aisle and had a moment that needed to be addressed. Kind of had a meltdown at that very moment. I've also had situations where at the last minute we've had to change a location because of weather. I've had a situation where we've had to change a location because the venue has had an issue. And so we'll share those stories with you. We'll share with you how to navigate those situations, how to navigate the day. What you don't want on a day is you don't want yourself as the couple, your parents, your friends, your family members to feel really stressed out. You want to be able to enjoy the day, because really it's all about a gathering. It's a gathering and creating a great celebration together.
It is. And I think my best piece of advice that I gave somebody once was, or tidbit, whatever you want to call it, was that we do all of the work up front. We answer all of the contracts and we go through the questionnaires, and some of those questionnaires feel really odd. Like some of the questions feel odd, but they all come from our experience, being able to say that I know that this is going to come into play on your wedding day. So on your wedding day, we do all of that work up front. So when you get to your wedding day, you get to relax and have fun and enjoy your people and enjoy your celebration.
Yeah. So definitely stick with us as we go through all of these great different subjects and all of this great experience we have that we can share with you, that other vendors are going to share with you, locations around the world where you could do your wedding, from small intimate weddings to very large gatherings, and also lots of different cultures too. We're not just going to talk about one culture type. We'll talk about lots of different cultures, because we have had the experience of working with so many wonderful different cultures and so many wonderful different people because of all the wonderful different cultures we've worked with. So stay tuned, subscribe below, so that you can always know when we're throwing out the next podcast, which we will do frequently, and enjoy planning.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Wisdom Podcast with your hosts, Tanya Hoops and Morgan Powell. To keep up to date with the latest episodes, like, subscribe, and follow at Wedding Wisdom Blog on all social media platforms. To submit content, please email weddingwisdomblog@gmail.com.